Hey guys, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Memoirs of a Trader Season 2. Now, we've already kicked off the season getting Brendan back on the podcast because we had to after the incredible podcast that we recorded in Season 1. And so I'm going to continue bringing the epic guests in this season. So today, I'm joined by Neal Patel, who is the founder of BlueSky Thinking. So Neal, welcome to Memoirs of a Trader. Top line, tell the audience exactly what you do.
Cool, cheers, mate. Good to be here. I basically founded BlueSky Thinking, which is a venture studio. Venture studios are fairly new in terms of what they are and what they do on a global level, not just from a local level. So slightly different to your accelerators, incubators, etc. What venture studios essentially do is take literally an idea, and you could have any idea for a business. You would bring it to the studio, reach out to me via the website, and then what we would do is essentially see if there's a case for that business to actually become a reality. We validate the idea. We take a look against our studio theses as well. If the business itself actually matches the criteria that we have, in order for it to become a fully fledged business in the future, then what we do is essentially look to back that business. We'll give you equity terms, equity splits, and then thereafter, we'll get on to building sort of a minimum viable product, POC, etc., and look to acquire audiences from there, or customers.
So if a company approached you and didn't meet your criteria, you're well within your rights to turn them away.
Yeah, sure. So there's not any rights per se, because there is no company. It's an idea that we run with up top. What we usually look not to do is take somebody that has a company that is doing okay over a multiple period of time, and then take them on and accelerate them. That's not what we do. We're not an accelerator. So we will come in very early doors. And that is one of the criteria of being a venture studio. So you're not a venture studio if you do not come in very early in the cycle of a business being born. And that starts with the idea.
Right.
So it's super, super important to make that distinction simply because you will get more benefit from an accelerator or an incubator or incubator. You'll get more benefit from them if you're a little bit further along in your life cycle as a business.
Right, gotcha.
If you are very early doors, hey, look, I've had an idea. There's gap in the market for X. I know that there is a customer base potentially of Y, and I've seen it from this activity online.
And they bring that to you.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So we also do our own validation checks. So we will obviously not take everybody's word as given. And that's not to say that they don't know what they're talking about. Some businesses have been turned down. They've turned into businesses.
Due diligence.
But you have to do DD.
Yeah.
And, without that, obviously, we take up a lot of risk. And hence, on the flip side of it, obviously, the reward is greater. But we need to make sure that, we are careful in who we choose, what we choose. And the reason why we are strict in terms of what we bring in. A studio only scales if you can bring in similar types of businesses that can reuse frameworks that you've already built.
Right.
If you can actually copy paste, web designs, for example, change the content and let it go. Everything is about pace. So the quicker that something can go from an idea to an actual MVP, the better it is for us.
Gotcha.
And if something is going to take years to build, we will not usually take that on board.
Gotcha. So, makes sense.
Yeah.
So do me a favor. Check that drilling. Check.
In you guys like is these mice that you goes.
It'll take you. Yeah.
Sound that's right in bad story. Yeah. Should be okay. Wait. If a bit, I'll load that sound in a minute.
Okay. Good. So then, can I ask, what was your inspiration behind the business? Why did you want to help people that want to come along and say, I've got an idea, Neal, can you help me? Why do you want to do that?
Very simply put, I love to build things. So
Could have just bought some Lego.
that's not very lucrative. So It's lucrative for my kids. It's not very lucrative for me. So, yeah, my whole thing is and taking a step back. So I used to have a digital marketing agency, which I sold a couple of years ago. And the reason why I got into digital marketing was simply because digital marketing changes pretty much every single day. You need to use your brain in order to acquire customers. You need to use your brain in order to output another social media strategy that works, another creative that works, etc. You have to consistently use your brain. And so what a venture studio allows you to do is consistently build something new pretty much every day. So at the moment, we have 6 or 7 different businesses that are spinning out. Some of them are already out, some of them are being built, some of them are at GTM, some of them, they're thrown into the cohort for next year. So I am constantly in a day jumping from one business to another, using my mind to solve different problems. Only a venture studio can allow you to do that. No other setup can allow you to do that. And also at the same time, building startups is unlike anything else. I often say, actually, if I was to go and probably join a large corporate, I probably wouldn't last very long. The reason for it is that venture studios, we're creating our processes at the moment. We're creating, we're learning something new every day. We're iterating every day. Established organizations do not do that. Established organizations have a way of running, and they continue to run, and they are the size that they are because they do things in a certain way. What that does is probably stop your innovation. And when innovation stops, that's when, people like me don't thrive. And so, why the venture studio? Why bring it to life? Simply because I know that my mind, the way that I am as a person, fits that structure of a business.
Got it. And then so is it fair to say you get the buzz of that initial, let's get it off the ground, and to see the kind of vision and where it can potentially go, rather than something being an end product or being in a corporate environment, etc.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So then what challenges have you faced? Because I'm going to assume there's going to be people that come up to any Tom, Dick or Harry who maybe just wants to make a table, and it may not be the most lucrative idea. So what type of challenges have you faced?
The biggest challenge that I faced is developers, to be quite honest. So we're one of the rules which we play by in the studio is that every business has to rest online. For that, you need online presence. Obviously, you need a website. Developers, I think I've gone through probably about 6 this year. Just
Wow.
on and off. The reason for it is the studio is nothing without pace. Right. We need to do things at a pace. And I think that one thing that developers, not all of them, I think I've got a good set now. One thing that a lot of developers don't understand is the commercial implications of not getting a product delivered on time. Hence the reason why you need to give developers skin in the game.
Absolutely.
A lot of them don't want skin in the game. This is a big problem. So when they don't want skin in the game, you need to put a rocket up them. And a lot of them do not understand the commercial implications of not launching a product on time, very simply. So to go back and answer your question, biggest problem, developers. And to be quite honest, for any online business, that will be the biggest problem. You will be able to go and find outsourced agencies. Again, they're not your people. You cannot stay on top of them 24/7. So you can have some level of commitment. You're going to need to pay some money up front. Who knows what will come back. And, we've been burnt a few times along the way. This is all stuff that we've learned. Hence the reason why we need to provision in for staffing of developers. And ultimately, at some point, have them understand what skin in the game means. Skin in the game is very different to being just a salaried individual. And if more developers actually understood the commercial implications and actually personal benefits that they could gain, they would be far better off than actually what they are.
So for developers that are currently watching this, just explain to the camera what's skin in the game.
taking a piece of the business. So, you know, you need to, in lieu of a salary, not a full salary. So I'm not saying come and work for free. Some people may, you know, then you would take a larger equity stake in the business that's to be developed. So, you know, from a developer's perspective, you have a skill set which is always going to be needed in the business that is being built because it's an online business. So due to that, you should ask for some level of equity, which then you can grow your own personal wealth off of as well. So no entrepreneur is going to start a business without the mindset of, I want to sell this one day, right? Some do. I think when they reach their sort of 50s and 60s, you know, they realize that, I can't keep running a business 24/7, and it is a 24/7 game until you actually exit, you know. So the entrepreneur knows that they have some level of exit timeline plan, etc. If you buy into that, it can be very lucrative for you. So exits as well, you know, exits are not small. They can be small. You can get $500,000 exit.
Yep.
You can get a nice 8-figure exit. You can get a 9-figure exit. So depending on what you're building, dollars, not dirhams. So again, you know, you could, by giving up, for example, 33% of what you would usually gross on your monthly salary, you could end up becoming a millionaire within 2 years, 3 years, if the business accelerates that quickly, you know.
Makes
and
sense.
It's not impossible to do that, but developers in general, a lot of them don't understand that
They
concept.
shy away from it.
Yeah. It's not necessarily shy away. I just think they don't understand that concept. And plus also, I mean, you know, going off on a slight tangent, this is fundamentally what's wrong with education systems, right? Education systems do not teach you how to become wealthy. Education systems teach you to go and get a job,
Of course.
which is important, and jobs can be very lucrative. So I'm not saying, you know, that don't go get a job. What a lot of people don't understand is when you have specific skill sets, you can monetize them a lot better. And the biggest gap is that education piece where, you know, schools or business schools, etc., have not taught that. They've only taught you to become a middle manager, a director, or whatever.
Absolutely. But you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so they play on that. I've always said from a long time, the whole education system is flawed, right? It's not designed to make you succeed, to make you wealthy.
Yeah.
You know, there is a stepping stone all the way when it comes to job and then family, marriage, university, debts, loans, mortgages. It's just as is.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
but that's how the world works.
Yeah.
So in terms of developer, by the way, I might have someone for you if you need.
Yeah,
I've got some
definitely.
very, very great people
Yeah.
who work at the pace I need them to work, like overnight pace.
Yeah.
We can put things up at great speed. So you let me know. I got some people for you.
Yeah, great.
Now, when it turns to entrepreneurs, what qualities do you look for? Actually, do you know what? We're in Dubai right now. And this is really interesting. Before we start talking about entrepreneurs and what you look for, I'd like to ask you what qualities you look for in entrepreneurs. I noticed the word entrepreneur in Dubai is floated around too loosely, in my opinion. What is your interpretation of an entrepreneur? What would you say is an entrepreneur?
If you take a risk, you're an entrepreneur. So I would put it that simply. And, you know, there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there, and by risk, I would say if you put some of your money up in order to get ROI off that money, and I'm not talking about obviously sticking money in the bank and getting interest, right? So we're going to buy goods, we're going to sell goods. In between, we're going to make a profit. That's entrepreneurship, right? We're essentially creating jobs. At some point, you know, we're creating jobs. But ultimately, entrepreneurs take risks with their money.
Yes.
And that is a very, in my mind anyway, you know, it's a very, that sort of the line that I am sort of at in terms of understanding who is an entrepreneur and who's not an entrepreneur, because I kind of understand what you're saying in terms of the term entrepreneur gets thrown around quite a lot.
Like coach.
Yeah. So coach.
Everyone's a life coach. I swear.
So coaches are quite interesting, and the reason why I'll say that they're interesting is, you got two types of coaches. You've got the life coaches that you're probably talking about, and I know the types that you're talking about. And to be honest, in Dubai, you've got a lot of like life coaches who are, to be quite honest, they've been coached through life with Birkin bags and Cartier bracelets and, things like that. And I say that as I wear some, but like, I bought them over a period of time, not given them. And so I understand life coaches in that respect. There are other coaches on the other side that are, they're qualified by experience. How would they be entrepreneurs if they're coaching in their spare time, right? And they've got a 9 to 5, they're not an entrepreneur.
Exactly, right? They're not an entrepreneur.
So no,
but that's what I'm trying to get at, because the vast majority of people that I speak to, and I'll be very honest, I'll look at the camera and say they all have 9 to 5 jobs. Yep. Not everybody, but a lot. Sure. A lot of people that people look up to, or because they've got a large following, and they use the word entrepreneur. But I agree with you.
Yeah,
you got a 9 to 5 job.
Yeah,
doesn't mean you're an entrepreneur.
Yeah,
right. And the way I look at it as well, there's got to be a sense of vision in entrepreneurship as well. Like, what are you aiming for? What is it that you're doing? Do you have what it takes to get to where you need to get to?
Yeah.
And so this has always not sat right with me, especially in Dubai.
Yeah.
And when it comes to these life coaches, and look, you can get microphone coach, table coach. Everyone just says, I'm a coach for something. But when it comes to life coaches, I remember one incident very quickly. I digress. When I moved to Dubai, and I noticed very early on, I don't live in Dubai anymore. When I used to live in Dubai, I noticed there were a lot of coaches. And then so I made an Instagram video, and I just talked to the camera and I said that, what I really find interesting, everyone here is a life coach, but they haven't got their own life in check. How are they going to tell me about mine? And listen, the backlash I got, people were messaging me, DMing me and saying, Priyesh, you can't say that. I really touched a nerve.
Yeah.
Because it's just honest. I'm being honest.
Yeah. But it's true.
It's true.
And so, and this is where I agree with you partly in terms of what you're saying. There are a ton of people who are coaches because they've got nothing better to do. And there are others that are coaches and, they can add value. And interestingly enough, actually, this is one of the businesses that we're building actually is a career coach platform, which is linked to a personal assessment from an individual's perspective in order to match you up to actual proper coaches that are qualified through experience. So, very high level people in companies that have actually gone through a career path, for example. Again, this kind of goes off at a tangent from the entrepreneurship conversation, but and then there are others that are qualified in terms of education. So, when it comes to coaches as well, just as an example, some people will need those qualified by sort of certificates and stuff like that.
But that's right. For those, like, I guess, psychologists, and you're talking about some specific type of coaches.
Yeah. And some career coaches in some respects as well, because there is, again, if you take the data from large corporates, again, because one thing that we always need to remember is it's very easy to sit on this side of the table and be like, yeah, why don't you just go and start a business? Why don't you just go and do something for yourself? Why don't you just go and do X, Y, Z, right? It's easy to say it because we live and do it. Not everybody has that capability, and it's not the right choice for everybody as well. So it is super important to, there will always be a large labor force which large corporates need in order to make their businesses keep running. And there's nothing wrong with that. Those people still need coaching. And so, we're building a product essentially to help them get the right coaching as well, because it's quite funny actually, because we'll go back to entrepreneurship. A lot of job applications as well, or job descriptions that you'll find on LinkedIn will constantly have entrepreneurial mindset, entrepreneurial this, entrepreneurial that, right? You're not looking for an entrepreneur, because if you were to hire an entrepreneur, you will sack him within probably a week, or her in a week.
Absolutely.
And this is something that large corporates need to understand, is that they don't need an entrepreneur. They need proper coaching to be given to individuals. And that coaching actually can come via an entrepreneur, right? And that's an important distinction that you need to make. What large corporates need is a 9-to-5er. They need, someone that loves going to the office, working for someone, and they're fulfilled by doing that. Nothing wrong with it. What they also want is some of the mindset and learnings of an entrepreneur, which they can actually then get coached into these people. And that's one of the products, actually, Unify, that we're building. We see that there is this massive disconnect between what corporates think entrepreneurship is versus what entrepreneurship actually is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure.
And, you're never going to bridge that gap, but there should be some cross learnings that are sent over.
So what makes you think that Dubai is the ideal place for your business?
Tax. So now look, the thing with Dubai is there's an energy about Dubai which you do not get in many other places around the world.
Yeah.
That's very important to point out. There is support from government. The government wants people to come over. They want them to build businesses. They want entrepreneurs over here. Entrepreneurs, at the end of the day, and this is true of for any country as well, they're less of a burden because they do things for themselves.
Correct.
They create jobs. They want to do
Self-sufficient.
things. Yeah. And so, Dubai obviously is a growing economy. It's a new business hub. And, what the government want to do is have people over here that buy into that vision. And it's no different to running a company, right? So I often compare, and I think about Dubai as the same as how I used to run my own company. We have a vision. Dubai has a vision. We have shared values. Companies have shared values. You employ your individuals based on those shared values, and ultimately you grow together. And that's as simple as and as complicated as it has to be. So, ultimately you obviously do have the benefits of tax and things like that over here. And, key thing, obviously I'm born, raised and came over from the UK. We've got sort of capital gains tax, which we need to think about. So if you're an entrepreneur, obviously it's just gone up recently in the budget. But these are things that you have to think about. When I hand things off to my children, are they going to get taxed heavily? Even simple things like exiting a business. The venture studio is such that, we scale businesses quickly and we sell them, right? I'm not holding on to them until my 50s and 60s.
Right.
What we want to do is within a 2-3 year life cycle is exit these businesses. So there's no way that I can do that repeatedly in the UK, put money in, create enterprise value, and then have 24% or so capital gains went up to. So I pay 24% off to the government. Makes no sense. So, these are all things that we think about, or from an individual perspective, is what I think about in terms of why Dubai.
Yeah.
And the number one thing, though, that I do say is the energy about Dubai is just different.
Yeah.
The amount of people that want to have a conversation, want to start up a business. And last week, I met somebody. They were looking to start up a earring business. I think there was somebody else that I met up with last week. They had a recruitment business, but they were looking to set up some sort of technology solution. So you can have what you're doing, and everybody's thinking about, can I do something for myself? And the only other place where I've seen, that sort of energy is America. America is still very much like that. The American dream, even though people...
It's very much alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, why do people want to go over there? I know there's a lot of political chaos at the moment, right? But when you're solely looking at it from the perspective of going over there and doing something for myself, right? I think America still is second to none. And just because the amount of encouragement that you get,
Because they support everybody. Everyone supports each other.
Everybody loves an American dream.
Yes.
Like they love an American success story.
Yes, correct.
And so, you know, this is not something that, and you'll know it as well, when you go back home, right? In the UK, to start a business is difficult enough anyway. And I don't mean about filling in the paperwork, but, you know, starting a business first and foremost, but then thereafter having people support you is a very different story.
Absolutely.
Over there, you'll probably find 10 people. If you go down to a bar down in the Bay Area, right, that will be like, okay, yeah, I can introduce you to 123.
Absolutely.
Dubai's the same.
Yeah.
So I was having a coffee the other day with somebody that we were talking to we were talking about one of the businesses that's coming out of the studio, and in that one coffee session, I got introduced to 6 different people that could take the product and help me grow it.
Wow.
Yeah,
Where you going to get that?
Yeah, that does not happen in the UK.
Yep.
And so, yeah, very, very important fact about Dubai is that people are willing to help you. And that being said, though, you do also have the flip side of it where, you know, people are out to just, you know, fill their own pockets as well. So you have to be very careful.
We know firsthand. We know firsthand about that one.
So you have to be very careful on those ones, right? So you can't trust everyone.
Yeah.
But, you know, and actually it's a conversation that you and I have had before as well. You will find certain types of people together in Dubai. So if you want to run into what I would call serious people, you need to look for essentially somebody you trust and is a serious person. The people that they keep in their network are going to be serious people. And I'm not talking about, you know, necessarily serious in terms of net worth and things like that. Simple things, advice, connections, mindset, exactly. Very different, right? And if you run into jokers, and there are a hell of a lot of them, they will be surrounded by the same. And so, you know, you need to choose who you are acquaintances with, I'd say, wisely.
Makes
sense. But if you hit the right crowd, you know, to be quite honest, it's good business.
Yeah, makes sense. And that's why, like, you know, taking it back.
You want to ask you, at what came to my mind, what you say about people like to help you get. Why do you think that is? Yeah, what makes people want to help in that environment when they're sitting in pub shop? You found 4 decent. They say, "Well, I know I do that."
Yeah.
Okay.
No, what?
Okay.
People actually do that in your personal.
Yeah, sure.
So when you mentioned America, I know firsthand that if you are someone in the music industry and you're in your town or in your state, that's why so many of them blow up and they get famous from their state because they really support each other. So what makes Dubai and America different from everyone else? Why does everybody want to help you?
So in terms of help, I guess look, there's a couple of different ways to look at it. So again, depending on how well you know someone, and there's 2 situations: either you know someone through someone that you trust, or you just met somebody and you're having a conversation, right? So if you met somebody and you're having a conversation, if you look at their profile, and you'll get to talking with them. So if you talk to somebody that has grown their own business, you know, they are, for example, an entrepreneur, etc., they will want to help you. Exactly, entrepreneurs love to see other entrepreneurs succeed, right? And it's like me, for example. So I don't want to cut off everybody's business. I don't have time to run everybody's businesses, grow them, etc. But if somebody needs a hand, you know, they reach out to me, I'll answer them.
Yes.
Why? To be quite honest, you never know. Down the line, they may come back to you, and you know, you helped them with 1, 2, 3. You never know where networks and opportunities grow to, right? And those sort of things have happened previously. So, you know, especially out here, I have conversations. We'll end up discussing something. We'll be on WhatsApp, and you know, 3, 4 years down the line, these people end up becoming my clients in the agency, right? I didn't even want to pitch them anything. I didn't want to sell them anything. We just had a conversation. The flip side of that is, why do people want to help you? Sometimes it is because they want to line their pockets, to be very sort of blatant. And, you know, if that is the case, again, depends on how you want to navigate that situation. You know, sometimes there's benefit for you. If there is an opportunity to collaborate in some manner, you move it forward. But ultimately, I still think from the perspective of why do people want to help each other, I think there is that sort of collective brotherhood, I think, of wanting to succeed, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And sisterhood. I'm not, and you know, when I say this as well, just edit it or whatever, like when I'm saying he and whatever, I do mean females as well. It's just you know,
Don't worry. Say what you can say what you want.
before you
Don't worry about it.
you know,
You say-
before they cancel me.
No one's gonna cancel you. It's all
somewhere.
good.
You know, that there is that shared vision that, huh? Yeah.
Now listen, we're on Memoirs of a Trader podcast.
Yeah.
You're a man, you're a woman.
Yeah.
You're a he or you're a she. Keep going.
So that, you know, there is still that shared vision of people that are here, people that genuinely come to Dubai, want to do something, they want to succeed, they want to try something. That's a shared vision, that's a shared value. And so I feel, you know, that's there's always going to be there's always going to be a you know, nuanced situation here. You know, you always hear of things, but on the whole, I think it still ties back to the same thing that I mentioned about America. Everybody loves to see the American dream work.
Success stories.
And, yeah, everybody actually loves to hear a success story coming out of Dubai. Like, if you're here,
It's true.
it's like, I live there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I know, like, you know, I know XYZ or whatever. Like, you know, even if you've touched the product, and we were actually just talking about the Dubai chocolate.
Yes,
right?
we were.
So we were in the.
He's trying to get me to buy this viral chocolate.
So
yeah.
we're talking about it, right? And so there's skepticism from the outside of like, it's a chocolate bar.
Chocolate bar,
right?
yeah.
But when you're over here and you try it, it's a really good product. I know I'm nothing to do with the product. I don't
There's
know
no
them.
affiliation.
Yeah, no,
There's no
like,
affiliation.
you know,
We're
nothing
plugging
to do
you,
with
so you know what I mean. Sort me out.
nothing to do with it. It's just a really good product.
Yeah.
Right. And you actually the great thing is that imitation is the greatest form of flattery, and all you see is, you know, different types of Dubai chocolate propping up.
All
but,
be made now.
Yeah,
but that's flattery, right? It
Exactly.
shows you've got a product.
Imitation, yeah.
Of course.
And the whole thing with that is that even kind of sat here, I've got nothing to do with it, but it's called Dubai chocolate. I live in Dubai. It is a great product.
Cool. It's cool.
I will promote it.
Yeah.
And, you know, it doesn't matter. Like, I want to see them succeed. It's a damn good product.
But, you know,
It's
what's really interesting is that people who live in Dubai really do talk so highly about Dubai.
Yeah.
It's I've actually never seen it. And I'll tell you something which is quite interesting as well. And Asad, you should listen to this as well. So everybody knows I've had my ups and downs in Dubai. I've had my pros and cons. I'm open and honest on my experiences. But one thing I've got to say is this: I've been back for a few weeks on business to get things done, have conversations with amazing people, and in the time that I've been here, I've been to so many celebratory get-togethers and events of people that have done really well, and I love it. I love seeing people win, do well. And the last time I felt that or saw that was the last time I was living here.
Yeah.
So it really is, regardless of my views, etc., it really is a place of its own.
Yeah.
It really is a place of its own. And
So
so
everybody loves a Dubai success story.
Yeah.
Everybody loves the American dream. Everybody loves, you know, it's human nature to be proud of something that's come from close by. Yeah. And you'll know that, you know, for you're from the music scene or whatnot, right? If you've known someone, you've collabed with them, they're from your area, right?
and they root for them, innit?
Yeah,
you root
exactly.
for them.
And it doesn't matter how poor they are, like in terms of their talent or whatnot. Yeah, you still want them to win.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so, you know, you're always going to get people that are haters and jealous and like whatnot.
Secret admirers,
Yeah.
Neal. Secret admirers.
But, you know, the thing is that those people, how I see it, and every year as well, you know, to some extent, actually, I measure my success based on how many people say happy birthday to me. And if there's a correlation in terms of less people every year, I've done well.
This is exactly what I say.
So,
I say this.
you know, and those people will weed out, right? So people that are just sat on your coattails, they're, you know, they'll weed out over a period of time. And yeah, you know, you'll be left with people that are genuinely there wanting you to succeed. And if you have those people around you, to be quite honest, you know, you'll do well. But you don't get those type of people back home in the UK. You do get those type of people in America, and you'll get random people just be like, yeah, you know, I can help you. Over here, random people, you're all right, mate. I can introduce you to 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Right? You'll get that. In the UK, you don't really have those type of conversations.
No.
And so super important. You know, a lot of the time there's a level of luck involved, but also you need to be in the right places at the right time as well.
Absolutely.
And you'll know this as well, right? So if you want to have certain conversations in certain places, right? And if you're back home, those are very different conversations that you could probably have 100 conversations in one night here, and you will struggle in 100 days to have 100 conversations back home.
If you like, you get a handful.
You know, exactly. And so, you know, those are the things as well. Like, and again, it draws back up to very simple, the way the countries run, the way that businesses are run. Correlation is there, right? Shared vision, shared values. Let's get the job done. And that's, you know, that's the basis of, I'd probably say, pretty much everything here.
No, I want to take it back. I want to spin it a little loop here, and I'll go back to celebration and something you mentioned about your birthday. And so I'm going to show you a video, which I'm going to play, and it's going to be on screen so you guys can see it as well. Because this was something that I have spoken about to a handful of friends over the last few months. And this is because it's leading up to my birthday. My birthday is on December the 8th. Get it written down in your diaries. No one gets me anything anyway. No, there are people that get me. So shout out to you lot. Yeah, but you know, you could. I mean, I like supercars. So anyway, and when people all say, "So what are you gonna do for your birthday?" I'll be honest, Neil. It's not at the forefront of things that I got to get done or anything. It's just, for me, it's cool. It's another day. Fine. Happy birthday. Maybe a cake. It is what it is, right? That's what it is, right? There's nothing special. I don't really necessarily do anything elaborate, etc., etc. And this is how it is, right? It's just always been like that. But then there's the flip side, and I'll use my wife as an example, right? It might not be the best example. She'll probably kill me, but it's fine, right? My wife loves the birthday, the day, right? Wants to make it like the birthday week, the birthday day. It's all about her, and that's fine. That's absolutely fine. But I'm going to show you this video now, and I'd love to know your thoughts on this as well, because this spins true to kind of my thought process about achievement and celebrating a birthday.
People that make their birthdays a big deal are the people that don't really do anything worth celebrating. And so the one day out of the whole year, they get to celebrate themselves. If you're constantly winning, if you're constantly accomplishing things, you're always celebrating. You're celebrating your progress. You're celebrating how far you've come. And so a birthday is just, well, it's just another day. Because you have so much more to celebrate than just a day where you're 1 year closer to death. If you do celebrate your birthday and you make it a big deal, I'd argue that you haven't accomplished anything worth celebrating. And so you want to feel the happiness that comes with celebration.
I kind of understand what you're saying. A bit of a grim outlook in terms of, you know, 1 year closer to death. But it's funny actually, because I do say that, you know,
I probably get about 10 people that wish me happy birthday.
Yeah.
Well,
I say, like, you know, I celebrate quite a lot throughout the year. Like there's a lot of things that resonates with me in terms of, you know, there are a lot of things that I celebrate throughout the year.
Achievements.
And you know, those are ongoing. And it could be that you know, individuals love to celebrate themselves because they don't have much going on. But you don't know that from everybody's perspective. Sometimes it is just one of them. Yeah, I think a lot of what comes into it actually is, has that person been celebrated since birth by their parents as well, right? And growing up, I hardly had a birthday party. Growing up, and it's out there. So, to me now, birthday parties really mean a lot. My birthday doesn't really mean a lot. Do I actually love celebrating my kids' birthdays. It's great. And so I think there's probably a correlation between, if you are young and you've been celebrated and your birthday's been celebrated over a number of years, and that's continued into adolescence, into your sort of more mature years, etc., it will continue. Whereas if you've grown up and you've not really been celebrated in that manner, it makes no difference. Then it is just another day.
100%.
And that's probably, I probably distinguish in that manner. I think it's probably a little bit off to say that these people don't have enough to celebrate. Obviously I don't know your wife very well.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Maybe the wife wasn't the best example,
no, but,
right?
I don't know her so well, but I'm sure humans get joy out of celebrating other people as well. And so, I'm sure that she gets joy out of celebrating your daughter and those sort of things. And I think that females are starkly different to men. So that's another big thing to distinguish.
It's interesting because it made me think as well. And I'm trying to look back and I think about the successful people that I know, you being one of those, you didn't have to tell me you were like that. I would have said it straight away.
Yeah.
Right. Because you are very relatable to someone like myself, and let's say another handful of people that I know are very much just like us, right? And so that was the distinction I got, that I can absolutely relate to it.
Yeah,
that we celebrate a lot. Life is about celebration, and so we don't try and limit it to a day.
Yeah.
And so look, if you celebrate your birthday, good for it. Like, I like happy birthday. Priyesh, great. I'm not knocking it. It's just a video that I thought was really quite interesting because it resonated with me.
Yeah, it's an interesting video, interesting way to look at it.
Yeah.
I just say that to label everybody in the same manner might be a bit
closer to deadly sin.
I think if you go back to sort of the way that the child has been brought up, it'll probably be a closer way to kind of understand why some people celebrate more than others. I think
interesting. I would love to get Sebastian Bates' view on this as well. Sebastian Bates, if you're watching this, I want your view on this as well, because he does a lot of work with children, and this will be interesting to see what he would say. Now, how long have you lived in Dubai?
Since 2013.
Wow, so a long time now, right?
11 years now, yeah.
11 years. And so, do you miss the UK?
Not particularly now. So I went back to the UK for the longest period that I've gone back in the last 11 years, just this summer gone. And to be quite honest, it was a fairly bleak outlook. And the thing is, I love home. The family's there. Genuinely, I do love London. I know that there's issues and whatnot that go on. Key things that just don't really sit too well with me anymore are the amount of crime which goes on within London now, which, to be quite honest, petty crime, which is ridiculous. I personally, I've never known London to be as sort of petty crime as it is. And I'm talking about pickpockets, these mobiles and things like that. But also, like crimes of serious
Knife
nature
crime,
as well. Yeah.
Machetes.
Those sort of things, to be honest, when I was growing up, and I mean, some people will say that, I'm a different generation altogether. I'm a millennial. I'm 38 years old. So, I'm not so old, but when I was growing up, we never used to settle things with knives, And
Simple.
so things have changed quite a lot, which is obviously quite sad to see. And then on the other side, you've got the business outlook, the economic outlook, etc., which I I have some hesitations about, especially on the business side of things. It's not a conducive environment for entrepreneurs. There's not enough for me to go and risk everything if I wanted to go and try and build something in the UK. It doesn't really make sense. And there's very few reasons now that going back to home would be a good choice at this point in time. That's not to say that things won't change. And actually, to be quite honest, again, slight tangent, the Labour budget, which came out a few weeks ago, wasn't so bad. It wasn't as bad as what people...
As what it could have been.
Yeah, as what people were touting it to be.
Yeah.
It wasn't as bad, and I can see the reasons behind a lot of the policies that they brought out. And the reason why I say that as well is that, it is a welfare state in the UK. People do need a hand. But you shouldn't penalise people that have done well for themselves.
100%.
You shouldn't penalise them. And I'm not talking about the super rich. Ultra high net worth individuals can afford to pay taxes. If they're using loopholes, etc., shut the loopholes down. It's a different matter. When you penalise middle classes, etc., you're going to have a massive issue.
It puts you off as well.
Yeah, and you're gonna have a massive issue. And that's where. I think they'll have probably a bit of an issue, but yeah. Otherwise, at the moment, to be quite honest, it's not really the best place to do business. It's not the best place to grow business. And for the model that we run at BlueSky Thinking, the multiples, an exit multiple that you would get for a business in the UK, depending on what it is. If it's a service business, for example, if I wanted to go and open up an agency over there now, for example, right, the multiple that I would get off that business is starkly different to what I've achieved over here. It's just the way that the markets are at the moment, and so you'll have less people buying businesses there. Your growth outlook is less. It just doesn't really make sense.
I remember recently seeing this statistic. It was sent to me actually, and I can't remember what the criteria was. I think it was something of people that earn a certain wage and the bubble had 9% leave the UK, and it had 2% of that 9 scattered around the world, and 7% came to Dubai. So the vast majority of people within that earning bracket moved to Dubai.
I think this was a graphic for millionaires. So it was
definitely something that I saw.
It was basically the migration of millionaires. Where are they going to? So the bulk, or not the bulk,
7% out of that 9. Yeah,
a fair few will move over here. A fair few will go to America, depending on the state. States like Texas, for example, etc. You've got a lot of migration out of China. As well, and they move over here, Russia, etc. So that graphic, I've seen the one, and it's millionaires moving over.
Yeah, interesting, really interesting.
I think in the UAE or in Dubai you have the greatest concentration of millionaires. Per capita or something like that.
Interesting. So taking it back to BlueSky Thinking, where do you see it in the next few years?
So by the end of this year, we should have launched 5 startups. 3 of them already launched, and the other couple are coming. And within the next couple of years, we should have at least either raised a side-by-side fund. So in order for us to deploy capital into our own businesses, a side-by-side fund, or we would have raised funds for the individual businesses. So that's kind of where I see BlueSky being within the next couple of years in terms of, enterprise value. It was quite funny, actually, when I started this year. I wanted to finish this year with an enterprise value of all the startups combined of $100 million US. That won't happen because a bunch of them haven't started. Up, and plus we haven't got the traction as quickly as I imagined we would have. But within the next the next year, I would want the enterprise value to go through past $100 million US for the combined portfolio holding that BlueSky Thinking has.
That's fantastic. And so for those companies that have launched, their website link is going to be in the description. So feel free to check them out and to reach out to Neal for anything. If you're an entrepreneur, if you have a vision and you want to launch your startup and you need a bit of direction, then Neal and BlueSky Thinking are your team. Now, to wrap up the kind of podcast here, I want to talk a little bit about my industry and you. So, how long have you supported Man United for? This the second guest in a row.
Yeah.
This the second.
Look, if we're talking about Man United, yeah, then he's fair in saying that we are supporting because Mo Salah is the owner of Man United, so we are paying wages over there.
Second Liverpool supporter that we've had on here in a week.
Make sure you don't cut that. Yeah, Mo Salah is the owner of Manchester United. Make sure it doesn't get cut out.
You see how I twist that now? See these Liverpool fans? There's too many of them. So, cryptocurrency. Are you pro crypto?
So, when lockdown started, I put a load of money into ETH, put a load of money into Bitcoin. It went up. I sold it, and that's it. I left it. That's why? No idea. To be quite honest, I like the risk. At that time, it wasn't that big a risk. It was, ETH, I think, was going at, $60, $70 or something. I can't remember. Bitcoin, I think, was around $7,000 or something like that.
It was, yeah.
And, it was a case of I might as well give it a go. But yeah, otherwise, to be quite honest, crypto is not something that I am clued up on very clued up on. And, it's not something that I would talk about as being an expert or anything like that. My knowledge of it is literally I put some money into it.
Been there, done that, got the t-shirt.
Yeah, it went up, I sold it, and then it went down straight after. And then it's been going up again, and that's
the game, right?
Yeah.
That's the game, right? You gotta sell at a high price.
Yeah.
And so you did what you did.
Yeah.
So would you rather save or invest? You as a business owner, a visionary entrepreneur, would you save or would you invest? And if you were to invest, what would you invest in?
In crypto?
No, just generally.
Oh, in general. Okay, cool. Okay, fine. I was about to say in crypto, I don't Bitcoin. You're not gonna get much more.
Would you save money in the bank or would you invest?
So money in the bank, to be quite honest, is it's not really worth it. If you want to build generational wealth, it's not worth it at all. Property, I have property. I will not invest in any more property going forward just because of the ROI on it at the moment is not very good. I was quite lucky actually. So my first ever property in the UK that I bought in 2012, and the prices then were
reasonable,
different to what they are now. And so the rental yield that I get from UK is good. If I went to go buy my property now and was to put it on rent, I'd make next to nothing.
Yeah.
It would make no sense to do it. And so, property is not really that great an investment right now. All of my money now is pretty much into new businesses, and I invest as an angel investor. So I'll invest into different startups in different fields, things that I'm interested in. Some investments. Recently, I invested into the guy that started Brewdog, James Watt, I think his name is. So he just recently started a business called Social Tip, which they did a raise for, and I invested a little bit into that. And I'm looking at a few sort of beverage brands and stuff like that.
How risky is it though to invest into being an angel investor?
It's in
comparison to, let's say, investing in the stock market, investing in property.
Yeah. So, I mean, to be honest, property now, I just wouldn't. In Dubai, I think there's still opportunities, I guess, to make a good yield. So again, in Dubai, I have a few properties, and they yield very well. But buying more now, I look at it from a perspective of the cash outlay versus the return that I get off of it. Obviously, you've got the yield there, but if I'm outlaying, for example, I want to buy an apartment, right? I outlay 1 million. Let's keep it nice and simple. Outlay 1 million into an apartment that I hope will yield me 10%. Actually, it won't, because service charges are through the roof. It'll yield me like 7-8%, something like that, right? I take that same million dirhams, split it into 10 businesses, 100,000 in each business, right? You're talking.
And does that give you a piece of the pie on all 10 businesses?
Yeah. And so you don't have to do anything. You can, at the end of it, depending on, obviously, it depends on your risk appetite as well, right? Some businesses are established, they're looking for a small raiser, your equity stakes are going to be lower. We're at the other extreme with BlueSky Thinking, for example, and I'm talking just from a business perspective, not a personal one now. Everything is high risk. So we take a larger equity stake. That larger equity stake, and the context of it is, if I plow $100,000 into a business and it takes off, like I was telling you, if I want to achieve the 100 million USD portfolio value, right, that 100K AED, the value of that is gonna in tech businesses, you're looking at about 14x multiples of your EBITDA, right? So if I end up with a business that does $1 million bottom line, straight away there's a value going towards the 14 million. It will be more than that because you got future value. But there is. It's not just it; it's globally. It's how businesses are.
Yeah, no, but that multiple.
Yeah. But it depends on the business, huh? So if you got a service business, your multiple is a lot less. But even so, you look at the sort of ROI on it, it will end up being probably better than property, unless you're in a really sort of niche or high growth area within like Dubai, for example, or you're in London, you're in like, Chelsea, Kensington, etc., where those prices will continue to go up because you'll have people with money that will come and buy it cash at some point in the future. It doesn't really matter, right? If you're just a normal investor and you're looking for something to do with your money, then to be quite honest, I would stick it into, and again, this is me personally, I will stick it into businesses because that's what I enjoy. That's what I like. And that's where I believe that the most ROI will come from at the moment. I have holdings in different indices and stuff like that. These are just things that, again, when I look at it from your perspective, I understand you can quickly make some money. I think it's called scalping, is it? Or
scalping? Yeah, that's a form of trading.
These sort of things, like you.
But I would never advise anyone to go down that route.
Okay.
I mean, you need to be heavily experienced in this industry to venture down there.
Yeah.
But it's something that I do teach.
Yeah.
But with a pre-warning.
Okay.
Right? Because I will teach you how to do this, and this. But if you want to go down a scalping route, you need a risk appetite, number one.
Yeah.
Because at the pace that you will be earning could be the same pace that you could be losing.
Sure.
Right? And then you need to be constantly on the screen as well. So that particular method, I wouldn't recommend to people unless you have the experience and you've got real guidance.
Yeah. I think one thing that you just mentioned there, risk appetite.
Yes.
Right? And basically, I think I read a statistic that sort of 92% of businesses fail.
Yes.
Right? That's risk appetite.
Yeah.
So,
I think that's gone even higher now. It's even gone even higher because I believe there's now, 8 out of 100. So, so 92%, I guess, so 8 out of 100 can even, it was 8 out of 200 not successful.
Yeah.
They get past the first year or 2 years or something.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So they'll fail.
That's
and
crazy.
So, risk appetite on investing into businesses, you gotta,
because that was the next. I was gonna go down that avenue. I was gonna say, because the statistic of most businesses fail, and a lot of you may not know this, that the vast majority of businesses fail. Right? It is not easy. It is 24/7. What people don't really quite realize or understand, it is not. It's not a 9 to 5. 9 to 5 is easy.
Yeah.
You go in. This is totally different. And so the thing I was gonna ask you now is that what if a company that you are now an investor in, they go bankrupt? That's the risk, I guess, right?
Yeah, look, there's always a risk, but there's always an opportunity as well, I think. So, when you if something goes down the pan, you have to understand why it went down the pan. And I think a lot of people will just write off the money, but there are also opportunities that come out of businesses going down the pan. You can acquire assets. You can acquire frameworks of the business. You can actually spin it off and do something else with it. So, it depends what type of investor you want to be and what type of relationship you want to hold with, the people that have raised the money as well. Because at the end of the day, you're putting money into people. It's a trust business. If you don't trust somebody is going to return that money, don't put the money in.
Simple as that.
If you trust that person, that they're going to... And this is why, people, the first raise that people do, friends and family, right? Friends and family will raise... will allow you to raise that initial amount of money. They trust you to get the job done. And it's always quite interesting because if your friends and family don't believe in you, they will not give you that money, right? And so and who will know you better? People like to think they're entrepreneurial. People like to think they're in for the hustle. People like to think that they will get the job done. But to get the job done requires a different caliber of person. And so, friends and family will know if you're that person. And that's where I think it's quite interesting. And so I look for, are you raising a friends and family round who's also putting some money in with me, for example. I won't fully fund an entire round because that is huge risk, especially if I don't know the person.
Of course.
And the other alternative is that, if somebody's raising money, depending on what they're looking for, we'll just take them under the BlueSky studio and we'll take a larger equity split. And so when we've got more control, we can make things happen a lot more easier.
So that mitigates a lot of risk?
That mitigates risk because I'd like to...
Because you're in control.
I'd like to think that we know what we're doing.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, again, sometimes it will work, sometimes it won't work,
That's the game.
And it's quite interesting, actually, the statistics around the venture studio model, and the internal rate of return is 3 times greater than a venture capitalist fund. So, it's you're talking good returns simply because, we're in the business. We're not just dumping money into it. We're actually working there. I want my money back.
Yeah.
And, a smart angel investor will also look to be involved, I guess, in some aspect. Some won't. Some will just be like, here you go.
Here's the money.
That's what I do.
Some will give you contacts.
I was like, others will give you some of their other businesses. Like, so in some cases, I know, like, I have a marketing agency, I have a creative agency, my wife runs a media agency. So
for a bigger piece of the pie, you can help here.
Not even for a bigger piece. It's just a case of, I know these guys will help you get the job done. So
that gets your return back quicker.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
And so, it's not even a case of like, I want a bigger piece of the pie. It's just a case of these guys will get the job done for you because I know this is where you're lacking. And so if you're willing to take that feedback, and if you're willing to, obviously there's always going to be terms to every deal that's done, but if you're willing to go down that route, then there's opportunities aplenty that you can get out of sort of investing into businesses versus investing into property, which is, again, it's a good business for those that started about 50 years ago.
You're the same as me. It's not my thing.
Yeah.
It's just property. Obviously, I get it, all that type of stuff. Used to have houses in the UK. It's just my risk appetite.
Yeah.
It's financial markets, isn't it? It's stock market, it's trading, it's crypto, it's this stuff.
Yeah.
Yes, crazy volatile, but that's my thing, right? You got your thing, right?
Yeah.
And then property is not for me. As well.
Yeah. I mean, stocks and stuff, like I have a level of interest into it, the usual FANG stuff, and like, things that will just continue to grow.
Ever thought about taking it a little bit more seriously in terms of investing and, take it to the next stage?
So in general, other people would do that for me. And, I wouldn't do that personally. It's just...
Time consuming?
time consuming, and then also it's just not where my interest lays really. And so it's a case of, and to give you an example, people will manage money for me with X return. They'll just turn around and be like, here you go, like, you'll get X, you'll get 8% on, if you give me $1 million, 8% will guarantee it. All right, fine. If it's gonna, if it just does its own thing over there, fine. If though I see another opportunity within the business where I think, oh yeah, cool, we could have some fun here, then I won't do that, because 8% is not really of interest to me. Like I said, it's sort of
what percentage gain is of interest.
To be quite honest, if you're to give you context, we're looking at sort of 100,000 dirhams. We should be able to turn into $10 million, and that is, we're and it sounds crazy, and most people will be like, yeah, he's a joker, which is fine, and you do. I'm happy to field any questions around sort of why I think this. The venture studio model and the things that we're building, like I told you, we're built for scale, right? The more things that we release, the cheaper my costs get. The more things that we release, more people use it. We already have activated audiences. They're easier to sell.
Framework as well.
My customer acquisition costs go down over a period of time, given that we're acquiring the right audiences again. Like, I'm not somebody that is going to be talking about sort of CAC all the time. Acquisition costs obviously are important for customers, but again, we're looking at automations. We're looking at sort of, we already have audiences. How do we activate them? We already have tools which actually can work with each other. And so, two of the tools that we're releasing, you'll find half of it on one and half of it on the other. And if you go to them individually, you'll have the individual versions as well. It was actually inadvertent, but I built 3 revenue streams from 2 businesses. So the third one's just have it for free. These are the sort of things that we're looking at. So in terms of return, like it would need to be like fairly hefty, and that's only because you're building a business, right? I'm not talking about going to a property and saying that I want a 4 million villa to turn into 400 million. I'm not saying that. Although, I've seen some of the properties, for example, I think in the Atlantis, some of the penthouses and whatnot.
Yes.
Initially there are like 6 odd million.
We interviewed Zoheb, right? And then Zoheb gave us the stats.
Yeah.
Oh, and crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And so the return on that, lovely. I'll take it.
One off, innit? But that's one off. That's at that
exactly.
time. Like,
yeah. Whereas with businesses, if you can hit something properly, if you can hit something well, to be quite honest, your return is generational wealth.
Very good. And so currently my company's portfolio is outperforming all banks, hedge funds and institutions in the world. Come to me in a few years, we'll give you a piece of the pie. And actually, finally, before we end this, do you have any questions for me? Or any question? One question for me about anything. Like, obviously, why am I handsome?
No, so like, look, at the end of the day, right? In all honesty, the sector that you're in, what you do, right? Whenever I look at it online, to be quite honest, you get a load of turds and a load of trash and whatnot. At the end of, and I've told you this previously as well. Like, why would anyone trust you? Like, and I'm not just talking about you as an individual. I'm talking about your industry in general, right? How do you mitigate that? How are you actually growing a business, right?
In a toxic environment.
What's going to differentiate you first and foremost, but also how do you make it lucrative enough to sustain first and foremost, but also obviously the end goal is to grow wealth, right? Or hopefully generational, but to at least, how I look at it in any case is at least to do whatever you want with your time, right?
This
How do you
is
go about this?
it's the hardest thing in this industry. It is plagued with pretenders, with scammers, with fraud. Anything, I guess, associated with money will have that stigma attached to it. And no different in financial markets, in trading, in forex, in cryptocurrency. Now, we thought early on in the business that being accredited, getting an accreditation, was one of our goals and aims, because it meant that I would have to be audited, go through that whole criteria, and which we did, and then they sat in our lessons and they go through it is vigorous. And then we failed first time, they had to do it again, failed the second time, okay, third time, then we got it, and we got the plaque, we got our accreditation, over the moon. So we would have thought that when it comes to people parting with their money for courses or financial advice, you would do your due diligence and that accreditation would help. If I'm brutally honest, it hasn't. Because what the marketer and influencer are able to do, the scammer, they're able to market themselves in such a way that they sell you a dream. So why would someone come to me to get education, which will take time, when this person promises me the dream and the Lamborghini by the end of the month? So we're constantly firefighting. So we thought this would massively help. Now, to make myself different and my team different from everyone else and the scammers, because what they cannot do, categorically cannot do, is actually trade. They cannot do that. And they cannot prove it to you. So we do a lot of live trading. Yeah, a lot of live trading with our students, with our members, live during data releases, during the biggest things that happen in the world. So during those periods of time, you will all see me at home or in office working. Them, you'll see them out and about. So do they really trade? Do they really invest? Because they're not even active during those peak times. And again, so we try to put that out as much as we can on social media to show people the vast difference. But again, unfortunately, the way they market, it's pretty much like subliminal brainwashing. It's the words they use and how they do it is what gets people on, right? And there have been people that have come to me and said, Priyesh, maybe you need to say things a little bit differently, or you need to do this a little bit differently. And I get that. But my moral and ethical compass is so one way that I physically cannot do certain things or say, I will get you a Lamborghini at the end of the month, or you're going to earn so and so. It's just not the truth. So they do so well because they can bend the truth to benefit themselves, to then ultimately become lucrative, right? And whereas my company would struggle purely because of that the transparency, and trying to go things the ethical route. And so it's just a constant firefighting battle that we've always had. But how we come out from here, it's a hard question. I cannot answer because unless FCA and governing authorities around the world clamp down on these scammers, it's just going to happen. And what seems to happen is that one scam will come, they'll scam everyone, that will go, they'll think of a new one. And these brokers and exchanges that people use, they're all in it with them. It's a big circus of fraud. But unless these authorities are able to clamp them down and shut them down, it will never stop. So it is constant firefighting. And the way I look at it and the way I see things is that, fingers crossed that one day that wave does come, and then people do hopefully switch on and see the difference. I tried to take matters into my own hands, started to review and tell people that this person is a fraud, not to give your money to them. But what they would do, taking back to the subliminal brainwashing, they would get them to then report my page, etc., etc. And so social media companies will easily take my page down when I'm trying to do good to help you not lose money. Right?
Yeah.
And so there is a combination of a lot of things but it's very tough. This is an incredibly toxic industry as well. Yeah. So it is what it is.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I've always wondered, mate, to be quite honest, because it's to be honest, it seems laborious, and like B, just like tiring. Like, change. Like,
so that's why the whole trading course has changed this year to this will be released in 2025, and so in 2025 the whole trading course is been revamped. I used to teach live. I'm exhausted. 7 years in now, I'm tired, and so but now it's going to be more beneficial for people because everything is more video based, bite size. You can stop, rewind, pause. 50 lessons. I mean, it's and it will continue to get bigger the more I think of things and spontaneously can do things to show you, to teach you, and so that course will continuously get bigger. So it's a great product. It really is like the best thing you are going to get out there in terms of education. We had a trader that came onto this podcast and said the same thing. He's seen material. He said, this is the best in the world, hands down. I just need the masses to see that.
Nice.
Right? So then maybe I need to go a lot more and take a lot more seriously down the advertising route to get it into more eyes.
Yeah.
Right? And so maybe something that I got to venture down in the future. But yeah, that's where we are right now.
Nice.
And so fingers crossed that wave starts to come.
Yeah. Good luck, mate. Good luck.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Cool.
And that brings us to the end, guys. I hope you guys have enjoyed that and enjoyed listening to Neal. All links, etc., will be in the description. Leave a comment. Let me know what you liked the most, and also leave a comment on who you would like me to get on the podcast as well, because that's also quite interesting as well. Anyone in particular that you want on there, you let me know. I'll try and make it happen. Thanks, guys, for watching. Take care. See you next week.